Okay, in our previous example, we went over how to get this graph. Quick reminder, this is the basic shape of our cosine function. And at the beginning and at the end of our period, our cosine is a maximum. At the end of our period, our cosine is a maximum. And then at 1/4 and at 3/4 of our period, our cosine is on the center line. So let's look at our next example. Okay, so our next example, we want to graph two periods of the function g of x equals 2 cosine of 2x minus 1, where x is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so we can come in here once again. We will draw our axes, right? So I come in here, right, plot my axes, great. I'll say that right over here is -1, we'll call that -2, we'll call this -3, we'll call this +1, right? I understand that the basic shape for my cosine function is to start at max, right? So it's going to start at its maximum. And my traditional range goes from -1 to 1, right? I'm multiplying by 2, so my new range goes from -2 to 2. I'm moving down by 1 unit, so then my range becomes from -3 to +1, right? So I have my idea that, hey, there's my maximum, right? And then we talked about how we can put our 4 tick marks. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's going to be one period, right? Where our period is equal to 2 pi over the magnitude of b, which in this case then would be pi, because the coefficient of x, right, is 2. This is in that form of a cosine b x minus h plus k. Right, so that coefficient of the x is a 2 here, so period 2 pi. Okay, so our period 2 pi over 2, which is pi. So this value here is pi. Then we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm making 2 periods because it tells me 2 periods. So then here I go to 2 pi. Okay, so at a maximum at the beginning, at the halfway mark of my period, I'm at a minimum, right? At the end of my period, I'm back at a maximum, right? Halfway, right? This would be 3 pi over 2. Halfway between my periods, I'm a minimum. At the end of my period, I'm a maximum, right? Like I said, I find it a lot easier to draw in this center line, this new center line, right? We'll call this the new center line. Right, and really it's simply the line y equals k, where k is that vertical translation, right? So I draw in that new center line, and I know that at 1/4 of my period I will be on that center line, and at 3/4 of my period I will be on the center line for my cosine function. At 1/4 of the period on the center line, at 3/4 of the period on the center line, right? And I can come in and play connect the dots, right? And so once again, I have 2 periods, right? I clearly have everything labeled, and this then would represent 2 cosine 2x minus 1. And if we kind of compare to our previous graph, these graphs look really similar. The graphs look really similar, but what helps us to distinguish is these values on the axis. These labels are very important. Here 2 periods takes 4 pi, here 2 periods takes half of that. Thank you.